Johnny Dollar.
Hi, Johnny. This is Earl Pullman.
Earl.
You know, Tri-State Life and Casualty.
Sure, in dear old Los Angeles, California.
No.
I should say West Los Angeles.
No, sir.
Only I thought you'd given up the insurance business to retire out there in the Golden West.
No more,
If you were going to
Johnny.
do nothing but laze around in that California sunshine, maybe play a little golf. Hey, wait a minute. I hear you throw in a no somewhere along the line there?
You sure did.
No to what?
California.
Huh?
I mean that Mike, my darling wife, and I are back home in Florida again.
No kidding.
No kidding. Right back here in Sarasota.
I'll be darned. When'd that happen?
A couple of months ago. And by way of keeping out of mischief, I've taken over the Tri-State office again.
Oh, I get it. You're back to your old habit of putting in a pitch for me to get on down there and do some fishing with you.
Maybe. Among other things.
Other things like what?
Like insurance investigation. What else? How's your musical ear?
Well, I think I can tell the difference between a fiddle and a bass drum, if that's any help.
It may be, Johnny. It may be.
What's up, Earl?
As long as the company will pay your expenses, why don't you come on down here and see?
Okay. Why not?
The CBS Radio Network brings you Mandel Kramer in the exciting adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator,
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the Tri-State Life and Casualty Insurance Company office in Sarasota, Florida. Following is an account of expenses incurred during my investigation of the Fiddle Faddle matter. Expense account item 1, 7940 taxi out Bradley Field in a plane heading south. The flight was quick and easy, and by early afternoon I was in the office at 1306 Main Street that Earl shares with another old friend of mine, Don Boomhauer, a prominent real estate operator.
Don't let Earl kid you for 1 minute, Johnny.
What do you mean by that, Don?
Only real reason he wants you down here is to go fishing with him. And maybe in the hopes he can get you to settle down here, which wouldn't be such a bad idea, Johnny.
Now, stop making with the pitch. You dig up Earl for me so I can get to work on his insurance problem.
Well, I tried.
And you did very well. Tell me, do you know anything about why he wants me down here?
I told you.
No, I mean about the job he has for me.
Oh, that. Well, Johnny, it's probably the most unimportant case anybody ever handed you. Did you ever hear of Mr. Joseph R. Tetrick?
Nope, never heard of him.
Real big in oil and steel and copper a while back. Came down here to retire. Built himself a big house at the north end of St. Armand's Key, really on Lido Shores.
And?
Well, that house of his includes an air-conditioned walk-in vault big enough for the average bank. And why?
Why?